Parandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Kauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanhebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we welcome everyone to our study of Srimad Bhagavatam at the level of Bhakti Vaibhava, and we're going over the 5th canto section on Vedic cosmology. So this evening we're going to look at chapter number 24, I think it is, Śiśumāra. All right, let me see.
23, Maharaj.
23, is that? Sorry, okay. 23. Yeah. 24 is the subterranean, right. That's the subterranean. Right, we have 3 chapters still remaining after this one. This chapter number 23, this Śiśumāra planetary systems. Śiśumāra meaning dolphin, right? Dolphins, playful creatures. So the stars, the formation of the stars in the sky, remember, resemble a dolphin. Anyway, this is chapter 23. We still have chapter 24. We'll hear about the subterranean heavenly planets, Bila, Swarga. And then we'll hear also chapter 25 about the glories of Lord Ananta Shesha, who is holding up the Bhumandala. And then final chapter is about the hellish planets, which is the introduction for Canto 6. And then Sukadeva Goswami can narrate the story of Ajamila. All right, so today we're going to look at this chapter 23, Śiśumāra planetary systems. Wait, I do have a PowerPoint here. All right, chapters 23 and 24. Are you all able to see this?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, good. All right, so this chapter's, we've delineated 3 sections. Actually, it should be more, right? Okay, chapter overview. This chapter describes how all the planetary systems take shelter of the pole star, Dhruvaloka. It also describes the totality of these planetary systems to be Śiśumāra, another expansion of the external body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All right, so the first 3 verses will describe the glories of Dhruvaloka, the pole star. Dhruvaloka, the residence of Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. And Dhruva Maharaj resides there, and he's glorified. Prabhupada said the Lord glorified, he wanted to see his pure devotee, Dhruva Maharaj, glorified. So he gave him residence there, and he put him in charge of directing all the planets as they revolve, as they rotate in the universe. And Dhruva Maharaj will reside there for 1 kalpa. Kalpa meaning 1 day of Lord Brahma's life. So Dhruva Maharaj is there. Maybe at the end of the life of that 1 day of Brahma, Dhruva Maharaj may go on to Vaikuntha. He may go on to the into the spiritual world, to Vaikuntha. He won't go to Goloka. He's not really a Krishna Bhakta.
Sorry, Maharaj.
Yeah, okay. So Dhruva Maharaj, of course, when he was doing his meditation, he was greeted by Lord Vishnu came to see him on the back of Garuda. So Dhruva Maharaj is going to go to Vaikuntha. He's a Vaikuntha Vasi. But he's a great devotee, right? At the same time, he's not as great as Prahlad. We heard earlier that it was described how Dhruva Maharaj was a Sakama Bhakta he became Akama by the grace of the Lord. With a little pushing from the Lord, he gave up his material desires, lost his material desires. But Prahlad Maharaj never had that problem. He never had material desires. But doesn't take away the fact that Dhruva Maharaj is a very great devotee, and that fact is shown by the fact that the Saptarishis, they all offer obeisances to him and offer respect to him. And all the planets in the universe, they're all different personalities in charge of these different planets. They're all rotating, they're all circumambulating the planet where Dhruva Maharaj is residing. Of course, the Lord is also there, so we could say, well, they're offering their respect to the Lord, but at the same time, they're also offering their respects to Dhruva Maharaj, because Dhruva Maharaj is residing there, and he's the one actually in charge of the motions of the planets. So they definitely offer their respects to Dhruva Maharaj. So the pole star is described as being an eternal planet. So, what happens at the time of annihilation? Does anybody know? At the end of the life of Brahma, there will be a total annihilation. What will happen to Dhruvaloka? Yes? Anybody? Please?
Maharaj, nothing will happen to Dhruvaloka.
Really? It will remain just as it is?
Yes, Maharaj.
Well, everything else is being annihilated. It's the time of death, it's the end of the life of Brahma, and even the topmost planets, even Satyaloka and everything, they're all going to come to an end.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
Only Dhruvaloka will remain, Maharaj, at annihilation time, and everything went into the stomach of Lord Vishnu.
Sorry, everything else will
go to Lord Vishnu's
and
stomach.
But what about Dhruvaloka? What's going to happen to it?
Till Dhruvaloka it remains as is. After Dhruvaloka everything will be annihilated, according to my understanding, Maharaj.
Well, Jiva Goswami explains, he says, the external features of Dhruvaloka will be destroyed, but the internal features of Dhruvaloka will become invisible. Will become invisible until the next manifestation of Brahma.
Thank you, Maharaj.
That's explained by Jiva Goswami in his Sandarbhas. So Dhruvaloka, very important planet, and also called, what's some other names for Dhruvaloka?
One star.
Sorry, what? Pole star, yes. Another name?
Shweta
Sorry?
Shweta
Svetadvip, yes. Another name? Many names. All right, anyway, many names for the Dhruvaloka, for the pole star, Svetadvip, because Shrudakashai Vishnu is there, his residence is there, the Milk Ocean. Okay, so that's the first 3 verses of this chapter, and then it goes on to, we have descriptions of the body of the Śiśumāra dolphin. And then mantra to worship Śiśumāra and the result of that worship. This section is spoken for a special class of people who are there in the assembly of Sukadeva Goswami hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, who are not really devotees. They're more yogis, mystic yogis, and they're more inclined to meditation on the universal form, on the Virata Rup. And of course you've already had described, this has been described for us already in the 2nd chapter, and then later on in next chapter 24, at the end of chapter 24, they also describe the benefits of meditating on the Virata Rup, and how meditation on that Virata Rup actually liberates one from the material existence, destroys all sins and brings one to the platform of liberation. So meditation on this Śiśumāra form is being described not particularly for devotees, but for these yogis who just want to sit and meditate on the form of the Lord. For the devotees, we will meditate on, what will we meditate on? What do you like to meditate on?
Krishna, Lord Krishna.
How do you meditate on Krishna? Where? What? Where does he come and sit with you, in front of you?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes?
On the beach.
Huh?
We chant on the beach and meditate on Lord Shri Krishna.
All right, you chant on the beach, you meditate on the holy name. Yes? Any other way you can meditate on Krishna?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. By hearing the pastimes of Lord Krishna.
Okay, by hearing the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Yes? And for the eyes?
By
remembering the form of Krishna.
By taking the darshan of the deities?
Yes, right.
By doing Archa Vigraha worship.
We have to see the deities, right? It's very important for us. It's such a great opportunity to go and see the form of the Lord in His deity incarnation. It's not just some statue which we go and worship, but this is the Lord actually incarnate. He's actually incarnating in the form of the deity. We have to understand when we go to see the Lord, how fortunate, what a blessing it is. And how fortunate are the devotees who are personally serving the deities. Worshipping the deities is so wonderful, so important to be able to take part in deity worship. Everyone should do some deity worship. Everyone, from time to time, should offer arti. Sometimes we get devotees, you know, they've studied so many things, and they don't know how to offer arti. Sometimes we get devotees, you know, they're doing Bhakti Vaibhava, and they even go on to Bhakti Vedanta and like that. But sometimes they don't know basic things like, you know, ask them to lead the Tulsi Arti, and they say, oh, give me a songbook. You know, they say, give me a songbook. I say, what? Tulsi Arti? We sing it every day. But, you know, not everybody does that every day. We're supposed to. So sometimes the basic things people don't know. I was in the temple, in Calcutta temple one time. This was in Prabhupada's time. Prabhupada came there. And Prabhupada came, and there was one man came, and he was talking to Prabhupada. So Prabhupada asked the man to become a life member. So the man said, okay, I'll become a life member. So Prabhupada called the temple president in. The temple president was an American devotee at that time. And Prabhupada told him, make this man a life member. So the devotee who was the temple president, he came out and he said to me, he said, what do I have to do? He said, I don't know. I don't know how to make a life member. What am I supposed to do? You know, our whole temple was being supported by life membership. But the devotee who was running the temple, he didn't know personally how to make a life member. So sometimes we miss the most basic things in our Krishna consciousness. Anyway, here's a very important, very nice actually, description of all the different stars in the constellation and how they represent this form of the dolphin. And it's described for us, and the benefits of how to worship and the benefit you get from worshipping. So everything is explained here. Let's read from these verses. Okay. First of all, above the Saptarishis is Dhruvaloka, right? Dhruvaloka, the top of the, well, not exactly the top of the universe, but it's above the Saptarishis, right? There's so many other things above Dhruvaloka. We saw in the diagram, right? You go above Dhruvaloka, then you come to Janaloka, Mahaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka, and then you go on, then there's the coverings of the universe, and so on. Anyway, above the Saptarishis is Dhruvaloka, 1.3 million yojanas above the planet of the 7 sages is the abode of Lord Vishnu, where Dhruva remains until the end of the Kalpa. I was not sure, I forgot what a Kalpa was, I had to look it up to make sure. Anyway, it's a day of Brahma. So many different terms which are used. One day of Brahma, Kalpa. There are different Kalpas, right? And sometimes the Lord incarnates, just like Varaha incarnates different colors in different Kalpas. So some incarnations, they appear in every millennium, and some incarnations come in every Kalpa. So circumambulating him are Agni, Indra, Prajapati, Kashyapa and Dharma with respect. So, such great sages, demigods, Indra, the king of the demigods, Agni, very powerful god of fire, Prajapati, Kashyapa, the husband of Aditi, Dharma, they're all giving respect to Dhruva Maharaj. This is very significant. The pole star is the pivot of all luminaries. This star, established by the Lord, is the central pivot of all the stars and planets. The unsleeping, that's an interesting description. Unsleeping, just like we were talking about the sun god, and devotee was worried that, doesn't he need some rest? Does he keep going, mounting the wheel of time? He's always working, he never stops. So here also the pole star is described, unsleeping, invisible, most powerful, time factor, causes these luminaries to revolve around the pole star without cessation. So it's the time factor which is invisible and unsleeping. Time never stops, unfortunately. And we often find time, it goes faster as we get older. I'm always amazed at how fast the time goes. When I was young, I was always thinking, it takes so long, time goes so slow. But now in my old age, I can feel how quick the time goes. But at the same time, it's just the impressions change. So unsleeping, invisible, most powerful that nobody can conquer time. Prabhupada was fond of quoting Chanakya that time is more valuable than gold. And in China also they have that saying also about time. They say you can buy an inch of gold, but you cannot buy an inch of time. So time, very powerful, and it's under the direction of Krishna, right? It's under the control of the Supreme Lord. It's His manifestation. We say also time moves like an arrow, moves very fast. If you watch someone firing arrows, you don't see the arrow go, you only hear it hit the target. So time is a bit like that. It goes very fast and hits very hard. So, most powerful time factor causes these luminaries to revolve around the pole star without cessation. So the luminaries are moving around the pole star, and at the same... The luminaries move under the influence of the time factor, but they also have their own motion as well. So it's not just only that they're moving around with the time factor. Like we heard the potter's wheel. So the ants on the potter's wheel, the ants also have their own motion. Although they're on the wheel and they're moving with the wheel, they have their own independent motion. And the same is true with the planets. The different luminaries, they also have their own motion, although they're also influenced by the time factor, which causes them to rotate. And we see the sun planet, for example, it has vertical motion, it has also horizontal motion. It's not only vertical motion, it's moving different ways. So each of the planets, they're rotating around the pole star, but then they have their own independent motions also. And that's why we have such a evolution in the history of the world. So many things change constantly. So the third verse, a very important verse, very extensive purport is given. Prabhupada talking about the pole star. How do the planets and stars rotate around the pole star? And the example was given, just as bulls yoked together and tied to a central post to thresh rice, tread around the pivot without deviating from their proper positions. So all the planets and luminaries fixed in the zodiac revolve around the pole star in their respective orbits, higher and lower, all until the end of the kalpa, propelled by wind. So this cosmic or mystical wind is there. We heard about Dhruva Maharaj with his ropes on the sun, and the ropes were actually wind, which is used to raise and lower the position of the sun as the sun rotates. So here also, all the planets and stars, they're rotating due to this cosmic wind. How do they remain in orbit? And then we're given very interesting examples by Srila Prabhupada. He said, he gives two examples in his purport about how they remain in orbit. One is the cloud, and he said one cloud can be carrying a huge weight of water in the cloud. Just like now with the monsoon coming, there's so many clouds, dark blue clouds, and they're carrying a lot of water in them. But who's holding these clouds in space? How do they manage to float in the space? This is the inconceivable potency of the Supreme Lord, the Creator behind this manifestation, that He can create these big, huge bags carrying so much water, and they don't fall down, but they stay up there floating in the sky. That's one example. And then the other example is this big bird. What kind of eagle is it again? Cheyenne eagle, which is like a huge bird, and they can fly from one planet to another. And Srila Prabhupada gives the example. He said sometimes they will pick up an elephant, and these birds are so big and powerful, they will pick up the elephant, fly up in the sky with the elephant, and then drop it from a height so that the elephant dies. Then they will come and eat the elephant. So, and he said even there are smaller birds who will pick up monkeys. They'll pick up monkeys and fly up in the air with them, and then drop them from the sky, and let them and smash them on the ground, and then they can come and eat the monkey. That's one way these birds get their food. So he said, how do these birds manage to fly in the sky? They're so big. He said, it's the arrangement of the Supreme Lord. It's all going on under His arrangement, that He holds everything under His grip. Materialistic scientists call it the force of gravity. But Srila Prabhupada said it's simply due to Krishna. It's all done by His potency. What happened? Okay, we said, just as the clouds are eagles controlled by the wind and pushed by karma, move about in the sky, so the planets, supported by matter and the Lord, and moving by their past karmas, do not fall to the ground. So these birds and the clouds, they don't fall to the ground, but the monkeys and the elephants, which are picked up, they fall to the ground. So everyone has their own karma. And some people have good karma, some not so good. All right, so that the discussion on the pole star, and then moving on to the description of the Śiśumāra dolphin. Some describe the zodiac belt, the great machine consisting of the stars and planets, to have the form of a dolphin, Śiśumāra, and for worshipping Vasudeva in meditation. And so then we're given descriptions about how we should visualize this dolphin. Right? The tail is up, because the tail is up at the planet of Dhruva. So it has its head downwards and the tail up, its body coiled. So the end of the tail is the planet of Dhruva, and the body of the tail is at the planet of the great sages below Dhruva Loka. And then the base of the tail, we're told about a couple of planets, never heard this before, but planets of Datta and Vidata. I don't know where these planets are, didn't hear of them before. And then the hips of the dolphin are like the Saptarishis, like Vasishta and Angira. The right side of its coiled body are the 14 constellations from Abhijit to Punarvasu. And then the left side of his coiled body are the other 14 stars, Pushya to Uttarasaga. And then the back is like the group of stars known as Ajaviti. And the abdomen, the Ganges that flows in the sky. The Ganges that flows in the sky, it's called the Milky Way, right? The Ganges which flows in the sky. We heard about the Ganga coming in through the hole in the covering of the universe, and then coming down first to Dhruvaloka, and then to the Saptarishis, and then to the moon planet, and then onto Mount Meru. And from Mount Meru then it falls down into the Himalayas, onto the head of Lord Shiva, and then into the saltwater ocean. So in the sky, the Ganges is compared to the abdomen of this dolphin. Big dolphin. And here you can see very detailed description is given. All the different limbs, different parts of the dolphin, they're all compared to different planets. So you can really get into the meditation, you know, if you have to memorize all of these things and think of all these different parts. So the 28 locations are located on either side of the body of the dolphin. And we see right and left loin, right and left feet, right and left nostrils, right and left eyes, right and left ears, right ribs on the left side, ribs on the right side, right and left shoulders, upper chin, lower chin, mouth, genitals, back of its neck, chest, core of heart, mind, navel, breast, life air, neck, all over its body, pores. So 28 different constellations. Very detailed description. I don't quite know how they managed to decide which part of the body is what. But anyway, it did a very good job, detailed job. The sun planet is described as the chest of the Lord. Lord Narayan is the core of his heart. That's reasonable. The moon is the mind. All right, that's also reasonable. We know about that, the relationship between the mind and the moon. Other ones, not so clear. Rahu is the neck. That rascal Rahu. All over the body, the comets and pores, numerous stars. Okay, so this is a very detailed description there. Okay. It doesn't talk about the... Let's go to the text. So the benefits of worshipping and the system of worshipping is described. We want to look at text number 4. The great machine consisting of the stars and planets resemble the form of a Śiśumāra, right? Okay, we read all these different things. All the different limbs of the body of the dolphin. Okay, text number 8, we have the mantra for worshipping, the Śiśumāra. My dear king, the body of the Śiśumāra, as thus described, should be considered the external form of Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. External, in other words, it's a material form. It's not spiritual. It's the external energy of the Lord. All the different stars and planets and comets all combined together to make this form of the Lord. So, morning, noon, and evening, one should silently observe the form of the Lord as the Śiśumāra chakra and worship him with this mantra. And we're given the mantra, O Lord, who have assumed the form of time, O resting place of all the planets moving in different orbits, O Master of all demigods, O Supreme Person, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you and meditate upon you. So it's a very personal prayer. You can understand in the prayer, they're recognizing the form of the Lord as the Supreme, above all the demigods. And so it's interesting that they recognize and they're worshipping the Lord as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, above all others. Of course, they describe him as the form of time. That's one form of the Lord, but that's their limited realization of the Lord. And that's the mantra. That's how they worship the Lord, with this prayer. Morning, noon and evening. Like their Gayatri mantra. So then Sukadeva Goswami comments on it. He talks about the body of the Supreme Lord, the resting place of all the demigods and all the stars and planets. One who chants this mantra to worship that Supreme Person 3 times a day, morning, noon and evening, will surely be freed from all sinful reactions. If one simply offers his obeisances to this form or remembers this form 3 times a day, all his recent sinful activities will be destroyed. So that's the blessing of worshipping the Śiśumāra. You destroy all sinful activities. Not all, just recent sinful activities. Okay, so very nice. Not a very difficult thing to do, quite simple thing to do. Worship the Lord, remember the Lord 3 times a day. Of course, we're already doing that when we chant Gayatri Mantra 3 times a day. It's a meditation on the supreme form of the Lord. We chant the Gayatri Mantra to remember the Lord and to offer our respects to Him. All right, then there's a lot of figures in the purport. A lot of dimensions are given, all in yojanas, millions, hundreds and thousands of yojanas. I'll just read a little bit from the purport here. It talks about the Virata Rup, summarizing the entire description of the planetary system of the universe. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that one who is able to meditate upon this arrangement of the Virata Rup or Vishwarup, the external body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and worship Him 3 times a day by meditation, will always be freed from all sinful reaction. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur estimates that Dhruvaloka, the pole star, is 3,800,000 yojanas above the sun. Above Dhruvaloka, by 10,000 yojanas, is Maharloka. Above Maharloka, by 20,000 yojanas, is Janaloka. And above Janaloka, by 80,000 yojanas, is Tapaloka. And above Tapaloka, by 120 million yojanas, is Satyaloka. Thus the distance from the sun to Satyaloka is 233,800,000 yojanas, or 1,870,400,000 miles. My goodness, these are big figures, you can see. We're talking about going right up to the covering of the universe. The Vaikuntha planets begin 26,200,000 yojanas, which is 209,600,000 miles above Satyaloka. That's just above Satyaloka. Thus, the Vishnu Purana describes that the covering of the universe is 260 million yojanas away from the sun. The distance from the sun to the earth is 100,000 yojanas, and below the earth by 70,000 yojanas are the 7 lower planetary systems called Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala. Below these lower planets by 30,000 yojanas, Sheshanaga is laying on the Garbhodak ocean. That ocean is 249,800,000 yojanas deep. Thus the total diameter of the universe is approximately 500 million yojanas, or 4 billion miles. Okay? So that's the end of that chapter. What I thought we might do now for the rest of the class, I wanted that you know, Srila Prabhupada said how he wanted that we should be able to explain about the passing of day and night, and we should explain about the phases of the moon and the seasons, and also one other, like eclipses. So I thought we'll make some groups, and you can each group can work on one of these things and make a presentation from what has been covered in this section of the Bhagavatam and what you understand, right? So how many people do we have here tonight, in the class?
Maharaj, we have 16 people, Maharaj.
Oh, 16 people, okay, so 4 groups of 4, right? And
yeah.
The first group will deal with the question of day and night and how it's arranged, how day and night is arranged within the universe. And the second group will deal with the seasons and how the different seasons appear. The third group will be concerned with the waxing and waning of the moon, the phases of the moon. And the fourth group will explain something about eclipses. All right, so you make 4 groups.
Oh, okay, Maharaj. How much time do we have, Maharaj?
Well, like 15 minutes.
Okay, Maharaj. Okay, I'll divide into 4 groups. I'll divide the group into 4 and I will assign them, Maharaj.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Maharaj,
Yes?
devotees have one confusion. We have to refer back previous chapters, no Maharaj?
Yes.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you.
Okay, Prabhu, I think you could close the rooms. Jai Govinda, Prabhu. Okay, is everyone back?
Yes, Maharaj.
Oh, good. All right, so let's hear from group number 1 about day and night and how it happens within the universe. Who's this?
Hey Krishna Maharaj,
Yes, Mataji.
we have been given to speak on the days and night. I'll just try whatever I can, because we couldn't actually complete our discussion, but I'll try what we have discussed, Maharaj.
Okay, please.
Maharaj, the sun, in this chapter, in the starting, the summary tells that sun is not stationary and it is moving like any other planet. The movement of sun determines the duration of day and night. When the sun travels north of the equator, it moves during the day and very quickly at night, thus increasing the duration of day and decreasing the duration of night. Then going to verse number 3, verse number...
Which chapter are you in?
21st chapter, Maharaj.
Okay.
And then going to the verse number 4, it tells that when the sun passes through Mesha to Tula, the duration of the day and nights are equal. But when it comes to the second sign, that is Vrishabha, it slowly, the duration of day increases till it comes to Cancer. And then it gradually decreases by half an hour till it comes to Tula. Then it becomes, day and night becomes equal. Then when it comes to the next Rashi, that is Vrischika Rashi or the Scorpio, the duration of the days decreases till it goes to Capricorn, and then it actually increases month after month till it comes to Mesha, where again the day and night becomes equal.
So is this going to happen throughout the year, every day? Or is this a particular seasonal thing?
It is seasonal, Maharaj.
Yes, I think it would be seasonal, yes. Yeah, I think you're going into the seasons there. I think we want to be concerned first, just with the nature of the day and the night, and the sunrise and the sunset, sunrise and the midday sunset, and then midnight, like that.
No, Maharaj, it is seasonal.
Would somebody else, does anybody else have any thoughts on this?
Mataji, number 7 it is there, no? Sunrise, moonrise, sunset.
Uh-huh. Yes, we spoke about, remember, the sun god's chariot going round Manasatara mountain on Pushkara Dweep, in the middle of Pushkara Dweep, going around Pushkara Dweep in the form of a ring is the Manasatara mountain, and the sun god rides his chariot. The axle was fixed to from Mount Meru to the top of on top of the Manasatara mountain. The wheel was, one wheel was on the Manasatara mountain, and the other axle was attached to Mount Meru, the summit of Meru. And it said that as he goes around, then that's the formation that brings about the changes from the day to night. There's 4 residencies of 4 different demigods there, and he begins from one of the residencies, and he goes around, and as he goes around, then the sun is rising, and then he comes back, and then it comes to the sunset. That was one description of the passing of day and night. Right?
Yes, Maharaj.
Anyone else has any thoughts on this? The changing time?
Maharaj, can I try, Maharaj?
Please, Prabhu, yeah?
Yeah, Maharaj, in the 21st chapter, verse number 8 and 9, it's described like the people on Mount Sumeru experience midday always, although the sun moves anti-clockwise relative to the constellation. With Mount Sumeru on its left, it also moves clockwise, being influenced by the Dakshinavarta wind. So again, in the same verse, Maharaj, it also says, the sun rises in one city while it sets at the city which is diametrically opposite. When it shines at noon, it is midnight at the city which is diametrically opposite.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
In the next verse, Maharaj, in the 10th verse, it is given when the sun travels to Devadhani to Samyamini, it travels, the speed is given, which is in 15 Gatikas or 6 hours.
Yes.
So it travels around 95.1 million yojanas.
Okay, yes. Yeah, that's right. That's how I would understand the passing of day and night, that as the sun god is moving around in his chariot, what is diametrically opposite, that's in the darkness. That's where the sun god is, that's the light, and the diametrically opposite place is in darkness. And the place which he leaves, that's going to be the sun setting. And the place which he's going to, there will be the sun rising. But where he is, that will be the midday. So the sun god is going around, he goes around. So the sun brings, just like we said, Mount Meru is always hot there. It's always in the full rays of the sun, because directly under the sun planet. The sun is in the center of the universe. On the vertical scale, it's central in the universe. Mount Meru is in the center of the universe on the horizontal plane. and the sun is in the center of the universe on the vertical plane. So the sun is always overhead on Mount Meru. People on top of Mount Meru, they're always enjoying the heat. But what's being described was the outer island, which is Pushkara Dweep, and on Pushkara Dweep is that Manasatara mountain, and the sun god's chariot goes around that. It's the biggest, it's the outermost island of the 7 islands, it's the outermost island, and the sun god goes around there. So where he goes, the sun rises, then he comes to, as he comes around, the sun is, as he goes, after he leaves the place, then the sun will set. And as he's coming to the place, the sun is rising, and when he gets there, then it'll be full sun. And then when he leaves, then the sun will set. And then when he's diametrically opposite that place, the place where he is will be midday, and the place diametrically opposite will be midnight. So that was the understanding of that's how I took the passing of day and night anyway, how it was explained in this section of the Bhagavatam. Anybody, Ramakrishna Prabhu, what do you think?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I'm in line with your thought. It's definitely the sun god in his chariot. He's moving around the Manasatara mountains, and as he moves, he radiates the effulgence. And that's how the day, night, and the midday, or the rising and the setting of the sun is seen. I think that understanding is quite clear, Maharaj.
Okay.
And the interesting part is also that when the winds controlled by Dhruva pulls him, then when he moves on the vertical position, then literally the day and the night becomes longer or shorter for the other circles. So that's also another thing by which we can see the seasons changing.
Right, that's right. That's the change of the seasons, yeah. All right, that's the second part. Number 2, that's the second group, the change of seasons. Who's going to present that?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
Myself and Nandakishore Prabhuji will try to share something.
Okay, good.
About these seasons, it's actually this day and night and the seasons, this eclipse and all, they actually depend on the movement of the sun, which is actually known as Śiśumāra. It's the most important planet. And in chapter 21, Maharaj, 5:21 and 13, sloka number 13, some description of the sun movement is given. It says that the chariot of the sun god has only one wheel, which is known as Samvarta, which has like 12 months are calculated to be the 12 spokes. And the 6 seasons are the section of its rim, and the 3 Chaturmatsa period are as 3 sections hub. So this is how the seasons are divided, Maharaj. There are 6 seasons, and there are 3 Chaturmatsa. And all depends about the movement of the sun, Surya Narayana. Nandakishore Prabhu, 5:22. Okay.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, in the 22nd chapter, it briefly describes that how it is the movement of the sun through the zodiac signs which is causing the seasonal changes. So there are 12 zodiac signs, like there are 12 Rashis, and depending on the name of the Rashi, the name of the sign is there, and like for the moon, every month is divided into 2 fortnights. So as per the solar calculation, 1 month is the time that the sun spends for one constellation. And when such 2 months are spent, it becomes one seasonal change. So therefore, in 12 months, there are 6 seasons. And it also says about the entire sky being divided into 2 halves. And each half is the course traversed by the sun in a period of 6 months. So it travels at different speeds during this travel. Sometimes it's moderate, sometimes it's slow. And in this way, the seasonal changes are happening. Yes, ma'am, this is what we understood basically, that passing through the zodiac signs, every 2 signs is a season. And that's how the 6 seasons come forth.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, we also learned about, as you mentioned, the vertical motion of the sun also has some part to play there. What is called the Uttarayana and Dakshinayana, that's going to affect the seasonal influences. Can you explain why? Nanda Kishore, do you understand this? The rising and setting of the sun, as the sun goes up, it goes to the north, and as the sun goes to the south, how it affects this, what effect it has? Remember we showed the diagram? The sun, Dhruva Maharaj is pulling on his ropes.
Yes, so when he's loosening it, it goes a bit faster, and otherwise it's going on a slower speed.
Right. Yeah. Do you know why? Why it's going faster?
Because the distance gets increased, and so therefore it has to travel faster to complete that distance.
Right. A bigger radius, a bigger circumference, so a bigger speed is required. And when he pulls them on the ropes, he pulls it in, the sun comes up, the sun rises up a bit, comes up on a higher altitude. Then it's a shorter circumference, shorter radius, shorter circumference, so slower speed.
Yes, correct.
So how does this affect the planet, the climate? What's going to happen? When the sun, we know that we have called the Sankranti, right? There's Kark Sankranti and the others, and Makara Sankranti in January, and Kark Sankranti coming in July. So what happens with the Sankranti? What's that?
Umaj, is it because of the change of the direction?
Yes. So what's going to happen?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, as I understand, the vertical motion of the sun creates seasons differently in different levels of the planetary systems. In the sense, like for example, the sun rays, as we understand, reaches at its lowest level, which is at the earthly planets. So there, when the sun is rotating at the highest speed, so the seasonal changes that occurs is different when it is moving upwards towards the Loka or the Swarga Loka. There, relatively, the sun is moving slower, and so the seasonal changes are different in duration. So even though it's all the circular motion, but if you can imagine when it is being vertically moved, the distance that is covered is different. And so the arc that it makes is different. And based on that, the seasonal changes are also different. So we need to understand that, mathematically or geometrically, if we actually place this model, we can easily understand how it actually works.
Okay. That's a different point from what I was talking about, though.
Maharaj, can I say something, Maharaj?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, this will, like when it creates two ayanas. Means the year is divided into two. One is Uttarayana and Dakshinayana. From Makara Sankranti, that is from Jan to July, it travels towards north. Means the Dhruva is pulling the ropes. So it's moving towards north, which is technically called as Uttarayana. Then he started loosening. Then again sun start traveling towards southern direction, which is called Dakshinayana.
Yeah, and what's the effect on the days?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, is it that the day and night start getting shorter?
Right, yes.
Changing. Yeah.
So, Makar Sankranti, the days start to become longer and the nights shorter, right? Because the sun is... Yes?
At that time, the summer season starts during Makara Sankranti.
That's right, yes. And the days start to become longer. And it's the summer season. And then when the sun is coming to the south, then the nights become longer and the days shorter. So coming into the winter, coming towards winter. Now, it's not that the sun is just moving vertically up and down, but it's, they make a study of the motion of the earth, and if you see the track if you look every day and over a year, you see that the motion of the sun is like a figure 8. So because it's not exact, it's not that the sun just moves up and down on a vertical plane, but it goes off to the side different ways. And so that's why you get different variations also. Will influence different planets. We heard also different demigods, how they influence. Some can cause rainfall, and some can cause cyclone even. Different planets, right? Some have good influence, some have bad influence.
Maharaj, can you please explain the motion of the sun, which is representing like a figure 8? So, if there is a rotation of the sun beginning from one point, and then he makes a complete circumferential rotation to come back to that point, usually it's a circle on one direction. But when we talk of an 8, then there should be some opposite direction also, there is a rotation. So how is that actually forming a figure of 8? I'm not able to understand that.
Well, it's not a perfect 8, but it's not far away. It's resembling that. It's definitely not the straight up and down as we would think.
Yeah.
So, this is, I saw when I was browsing the internet, I came across something like that. There was a figure like that. I'll try to find it again for the next class to show you.
Okay, Maharaj.
But there was something like that I saw. And we see also, as you mentioned, that we have the high, according to the seasons, like in the summer, the sun will be high in the sky, and whereas in the winter, the sun will be lower. And if every day, if you go and, take a picture of the sun, and you'll see how the height changes over a year. That in the heat of in the middle of the summer, the sun will be high in the sky, but at the same time in the winter, the sun will be much lower in the sky. So different times of the year, the sun is changing its height there. Okay, so do we have another group? We're going to talk about the phases of the moon.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept our Dandavat Pranam. Our group is talking about waxing and waning moon, which is discussed in chapter 22, 8 to 10 shlokas. 8th shloka, it's talking about the distance of the moon from the sun. And in 9th shloka is talking about the topic of waxing and waning. In 10th shloka is talking about different potencies of the moon. Yeah? And in first 8 shloka 8 is telling about the distance. It's 100,000 yojanas from the sunlight, and it's moving faster than sun, he said. And in translation, it's also told that it takes 2 lunar fortnights moon to travel toward the equivalent of samvatsara of the sun. And it's take 2 quarter day pass to 1 month of the sun, and 1 day it passes to fortnight of sun. And Srila Prabhupada in his purport is telling, according to this distance, it is not possible for to reach a moon planet, what the modern scientists are claiming. So setting in Vedic calculation, they are more accurate. And the next shloka is talking about the waxing and waning moon, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Okay, Mataji. Okay, Hare Krishna, Maharaj, Dandavad Pranam. This slogan number 9 says that when the moon is waxing, the illuminating portions of it increases daily, thus creating day for the demigods and night for the pittas. When the moon is waning, however, it causes night for the demigods and day for the pittas. In this way, the moon passes through each constellation of stars in 30 muhurtas, an entire day. So this is about the waxing and waning of moon given here.
Okay, so...
And okay, according to the lunar calculations, 2 fortnights, one of the waxing moon and the other of the waning, form 1 month.
Every month?
Yeah.
So, the waxing moon is favorable for the demigods?
Yes, day.
And the waning moon is for the Pitris?
Demons, yes.
So, they share the moon planet? The demigods and the Pitris, are they both there on the same planet?
Yes, Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj.
Yes. Yeah, actually, Prabhupada, I was hearing somebody, they were saying, we want to go to the moon planet, proper way to go, you either worship the devas or worship the Pitris. And you can go to the moon that way. By the... They're there.
Maharaj, here I have a small doubt, Maharaj.
Yes.
In Bhagavad Gita, Lord said, whoever prays Pitrus, they'll go to Pitru Lokas, and whoever prays Devatas, they'll go to their certain abodes. But there, Lord Krishna did say that moon is common thing, no, Maharaj? If we pray Pitrus, they can go to moon land. That he didn't tell, no?
If we pray to the Pitris, they can go to the moon?
Yeah.
What, they can go to the moon or we can go to the moon?
No, whoever prays Pitrus, through them we can go to moon planet that he has not mentioned it, no, in Bhagavad Gita, that certain shloka.
The worshippers of the Pitris, they go to the planet. They didn't say that that's the moon planet, you mean?
Yes, Maharaj, yeah.
Yes, you're right. There may be another planet which is for the Pitris, which is not the moon.
Thank you.
It may be like that. Certainly they don't mention that is the moon planet. But this...
Hare Krishna Maharaj, in another sloka it is saying that Bhumo Tristada Krishna Shanmasa Dachinayinam Tatra Chandramasam Jyotir Yogi Prapya Nivartade. That means if they are dying on Dachinayana time, they will go to moon planet and then they will come back to the earth planet when after their...
Oh, if they leave the body in the dark, then they go...
Dachinayana time. Then they will go to moon planet and come back.
Okay.
Then they will go to... Yeah, Uttarayanam, they will go to the spiritual world and like that.
Yeah. Of course, it's not that everybody can go to the spiritual world just because they leave the body in the daytime. But that verse is there in the Bhagavad Gita, that's for the mystics. who practice mystic yoga. Those who those is not for everyone, but for the properly qualified person. Okay, so the moon planet, the waxing of the...
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes?
Sorry for troubling you, Maharaj. I had just one more question, Maharaj, regarding this, that they will go to Pitraloka or they will go to moon planet. So, is there someone coming to receive them or they go by themselves? Like we have Yam Dutas and we have Vishnu Dutas. So do we have Pitra Dutas?
Well, there is arrangement to transport them. There is arrangements there, yeah, there is mentioned there, that there are arrangements, there are personalities who have that responsibility. You know, just like, you know, you go somewhere, you know, the company would send somebody to pick you up from the airport or something, or like that, you know, so the same way, you know, it's very organized. You're going to go somewhere, some higher planet, it will be arranged. There will be persons there to take care, to transport you from one place to the other. You don't have to worry. It's all taken care of. They have very efficient management. That's why they have 33 crore demigods, you know. They have a lot of work, a big staff there, you know. But it's all arranged. Don't worry. All right. So,
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
I also have a question. This Pitraloka is above the Bhuma, like Bhuvarswar, or it is below? If I remember correctly, we saw the Pitraloka is down after the heaven, like down planet. It is Pitraloka is after that. Patala somewhere over there, Pitraloka, or it is up?
Pitraloka is up.
So it is near the Swargaloka, somewhere close to that area, near the moon planet, or? Yeah,
we didn't hear it mentioned. It's not one of the planets in the cosmic, you know, in the solar system. But there is somewhere Pitraloka, and here we're learning that half of the moon is for the Pitris. The dark half, you know, it's for the Pitris. So the Pitris and the Devas, they both reside on the moon planet. And so maybe there's another place, there may be another planet which is specifically Pitraloka. But certainly from the implication from this section, the Pitris are residing on the moon. That's something, that's a good question to ask somebody who knows a bit more, you know, who's gone into this a bit more. I have many questions that, you know, make a note of. When I get a hold of the right person, I'll try to run them off and find out everything. But it's not a very clear topic, and everything is not so clear just from reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. You really have to read a lot of other things, scriptures, you know. Like people often quote Surya Siddhanta. That's one of the books which they sometimes quote. And then also that book by the commentary by the Madhva saint, what's his name? Again, Vaidhyaraj Tirtha or something? Vadiraj Tirtha, yes, right. He wrote a famous book, and it's all about Bhumandala and the different planets in the universe and everything. And the movements of the planets. So there are many other references involved. All right, what about the group working on eclipses? Were you able to come up with something? We didn't really cover much on eclipse. I didn't speak much on it because I'm not too clear on it myself. Do you have some?
Yes, Maharaj. Hare Krishna, my humble obeisances, Maharaj. We just discussed about how the eclipses occur. actually the Rahu, when Rahu actually have an enmity, it's having enmity towards the sun and the moon, so it wants to hide the light of the sun. So the sun and the moon planet, when it is actually asking protection from Lord Vishnu, then Lord Vishnu sent his Sudarshana Chakra, and the Sudarshana Chakra is actually helping the sun and the moon planet. So actually when it is actually tries to cover the light of the sun, that period is known as eclipse, solar eclipse and lunar eclipse. And it won't stand actually much time. I don't know whether 1 muhurta, the maximum time it can stand in front of the sun and moon. The Rahu stands in between sun and the moon is maximum 1 muhurta or 48 minutes. That's what. The details, yeah, we didn't discuss much about this.
There was an eclipse just the other day, but it was only visible in North America and Canada and North China and Russia. But it's like an annual eclipse. The eclipses are quite regular. Every year there's certain times there's these eclipses which take place. Now, there are 2 planets. Rahu is one, and then there's also Ketu. So do you know anything about this, Maraji? Do you know about Ketu and what's the difference?
Like when there was a churning time, Kurma avatar, when Dhanvantari actually brought the nectar, and when he was actually distributing Mohini avatar, this pastime, during that pastime, when they are distributing nectar to the demigods, that time Rahu actually came in between the sun and the moon demigods, and he disguised himself, he went actually in between the sun and the moon. So by the curse of Lord Vishnu, they become Rahu and Ketu. I'm not sure, Maharaj, I think.
Yeah, it seems there's some different versions on this. As you mentioned that the one person became Rahu and Ketu, but the way I heard it narrated was that Ketu was another person, and Ketu had actually drank the nectar also. And he drank the nectar, and when he was revealed that he was a demon, then Mohini also used the Sudarshan Chakra to decapitate him. But because he drank the nectar, his body didn't die. But he'd no nectar left in the head. So he had a body, he had a live body without a head. So there was Rahu with a head and no body, and Ketu had a body and no head. So the demigods they decide have to do something, have to give them because they've drank the nectar, so they don't die, they're immortal. So they put the snake body on the head of Rahu, and they put a snake head for Ketu. So I saw a picture of almost like deities, brass forms. One with a snake head and one with a snake body. So Rahu and Ketu. So the 2 of them are there. What is the material, the non-devotees, how do they understand eclipses? Because they don't they don't believe in any Rahu or Ketu. So what is their thinking when an eclipse takes place? What's happening?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, when Earth comes in between sun and moon, then the shadow of Earth will come in the sun, and that is straight line. So, then come straight line. Then the shadow will come on the sun, and that is the solar eclipse. And when moon comes in between sun like that, and Earth and sun, then that moon at night. We will see the shadow of Earth in the moon, and that is lunar eclipse.
Okay. So they say like that. There's just the earth coming in between the sun and the moon, or the moon coming in between the earth and the sun. That must be in the daytime, right? When the moon comes.
Yeah. Solar eclipse in daytime and lunar eclipse in nighttime. Yes.
But we say, of course, we say that there's these invisible planets which come and cover the sun or cover the moon. Whatever the case may be, you have the lunar eclipse or the solar eclipse.
Maharaj, from the Bhagavatam point of view, there is never a chance that the earth can come between sun and moon, because it's totally in a different plane. So the idea of Rahu, who is below the sun and the moon, as explained in these chapters, is more reasonable to understand. And it is said that it is invisible, so it's rotating along with the sun, and that's the reason why it wouldn't allow the sun rays to come on a particular part of the earth. So when he covers onto the sun, when he attacks on the sun, you find the solar eclipse. And when he attacks onto the moon, you find the lunar eclipse, because moon is much higher vertically than the sun. And so he rotates, the Rahu rotates at different speeds during the period of time. And also, as being explained in the Bhagavatam, that the area or his luminance or his influence is much wider than that of the sun and the moon.
So is it always Rahu responsible for the eclipses? Is not Ketu sometimes?
Well, in the Bhagavatam, it only speaks about the Rahu. It doesn't speak much about the Ketu. So I probably understood in this way that the bodies of Rahu and Ketu are actually merged. Even though we see physically that the Rahu and Ketu, as mentioned even in the Goloka chart, are two different planets. But because they work in tandem, and that's why you find that the influences are like that.
Oh. Yes, there's certainly, you don't find any mention there of Ketu in the Bhagavatam.
Because the concept of the modern day scientists, which says that the earth comes between sun and moon, is really incomprehensible from the viewpoint of Bhagavatam, because that's totally in a different plane and a different level. The earth is not part of the luminaries, whereas the moon, sun and the Rahu are part of the luminaries who are actually rotating. So this concept is little, not very clear from the modern day scientific ways.
Oh.
Maharaj?
Yes?
Can I say something, Maharaj?
Please.
Maharaj, according to Surya Siddhanta, Ketu causes Chandragrahan, that is lunar eclipse, and Rahu causes solar eclipse.
Yes, that's the way I heard it explained today when I was surfing on the net. Someone said like that. That's Surya Siddhanta, is it?
Yes, Maharaj.
Uh-huh.
And of course, because since His Divine Grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati has written on it, so we can we can accept it as an authentic scripture, Maharaj.
Uh-huh.
Surya Siddhanta.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Very interesting.
Maharaj, one more thing, Maharaj, when you are talking about seasons, you are mentioning, if on one particular day, if we observe the sunrise on different months, we will come in the form of 8. Can I share that image, Maharaj?
Can you save that image?
Can I share that image?
Yes. Do you have it with you?
Yes, Maharaj.
Oh, very good.
You can see, Maharaj?
Oh, yeah.
This is when you are looking at, Maharaj?
Yes, I can see, yeah.
Yeah. So this is during December, then it starts progressing, January, February, March, then again it starts decreasing.
Uh-huh.
This is a real-time picture, Maharaj.
This is a what picture?
Real time means it's real time picture. Every month somebody has taken it and they have captured it.
Right. Yeah. Very nice.
Can I close it, Maharaj?
Yes.
Prabhu, from the same spot. Taken from the same spot.
From the same spot and the same timing almost.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it has to be same spot, same time, and the change in the sun. Right. That's right. That's how it happens. Yeah.
Okay. Can I close, Maharaj?
Yes. Please.
Jagan Prabhu, I've just shared one website link. You can check there, and I think probably Maharaj was looking at that shape of the 8, which is there. You can probably access that and share it.
Yes, I'll have to look for it. So many things there. And it's certainly very absorbing to think about these things. We experience them every day. Oh yeah, there it is. That's it, that middle one. Yeah, right. Yeah.
You can zoom that, Professor.
I'll save this image, then I'll zoom it. You have saved this image, Prabhu? I will make you co-host. You share it, Prabhu, because it's okay. Now it's saving. Now, hang on.
Yeah, we can understand now. It's such a complex subject matter. We can appreciate why Srila Prabhupada said that you are so many PhDs. So he wanted them to use their PhD education to develop the plan for the Temple of the Vedic Planetarium and to show all these things in a manner which will make it acceptable for the public. So we're all looking forward to that day when we can open up our Temple of the Vedic Planetarium and we can spend some valuable time to go through and to see all these displays and to see for ourselves exactly what's being told here in the Bhagavatam, to see it all presented. Jai. So this is the same thing, right? The same time every day. Would it be like that? To take this picture?
Ramakrishna Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji, but I'm not very sure on that, because I really do not know. Because if we take any at one particular point and go in one direction, then after a point of time there should be a reverse motion. If I start from here, I go there, and then I actually come back. So there should be a reverse motion also. So we are not seeing such kind of a reverse motion explained in the Bhagavatam. So how does that actually work through is not clearly comprehensible.
No, it's circular. It's going round, right? It's a continual motion, going up, rising and descending, going up and going round. It's a continual motion. Could begin and end anywhere.
Yeah, but what I mean to say is that, like, it's not like a circular motion. It's like if you go from one direction, you go all the way up, and then again after a point of time you have to turn back
Well, that's what's happening, right? It's going up and then it's coming back, and then going up and then coming back. The figure 8.
Yeah.
It's just coming back in a different route to make, and that's how the figure 8 appears.
Yeah. It could be, Maharaj. I mean, this is just my understanding. As what we get to see from the explanations of Bhagavatam, wherein we are talking of the ayanas, which is like from north to south and again south to north, going up. So that explains this type of emotion, in the sense like from north to south, when it is coming, it's in a particular direction. And when it goes from south to north, to that previous direction, it is on the opposite side. So from that perspective, I'm trying to say that there should be an opposite motion. Anyway, the modern scientists also have their own ways of explanation, but their explanation is always with keeping the sun as the center, and everything else is rotating around. So whereas the Bhagavatam concept is totally different. So to match these two are definitely something that is required to be on a higher dimension.
Okay.
Maharaj, Hare Krishna, Maharaj, it's maybe because of the one wheel we can have this motion.
What? Because of one wheel?
Yeah, he's got only one wheel, Maharaj. So when he's moving, he's taking a turn and coming back. You know, some kind of frequency or whatever. It's very difficult, Maharaj.
That's an interesting theory. Being on one wheel, couldn't turn around. So being on one wheel made it easier or made it more difficult for him to turn?
Maharaj, it's connected with the rope which we spoke. It's the air balloon which we saw, air pocket which we are talking about. Maybe because of the movement of the speed, you know, it looks like it's taking a turn, curve, and only one wheel. Otherwise, you have to call Suranaran personally and speak to him. How it is working.
Certainly, the more we look into the universe, the more we become amazed at the complexity of the design. The amazing arrangements which are there within this universe for the maintenance of everything. The different systems which are all there, and the provisions for all different types of people, all different forms of living entities. Just like we learned in the beginning, you know, that it's just so complex that Sukadeva Goswami said that. He said, I can only tell you what I know. There's so much. He said, even if you live for a lifetime of Brahma, you'll never know everything of this tiny universe. Okay, so I guess we'll stop here tonight, and we'll meet on Tuesday, and we'll go on to the subterranean heavenly planets. Okay, thank you very much. Oh,
Maharaj, can I have a question, Maharaj?
Yes, please.
Maharaj, as you mentioned, you know, this particular section was explained by Shukadeva Goswami for the yogis, for the non-devotees basically.
Right.
After listening to this episode, did they all become devotees, Maharaj?
Well, they were certainly blessed to sit and hear Srimad Bhagavatam from Sukadeva Goswami. It's an interesting point, you know, that he's catering for them. By speaking on this topic, he's providing something, food for them, to encourage them to get their interest. So it's important. In speaking, we want to be able to present something for the audience. So he was aware of the audience, so he spoke on this universal form, this Śiśumāra form just to attract the minds of these yogis, that they will take more interest. Yeah, very interesting.
Thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, it's also a fact that actually the formation of the entire stars in the sky is in the form of a dolphin. It's arranged in the form of a dolphin. So a yogi who's actually meditating, he's also meditating on the form of the Lord. For just those who are advanced, they meditate on the form of the Vishnu. Otherwise, those who are not, they meditate upon the universal forms. And this is a tangible universal form which they can actually see physically also. So because of that arrangement, this particular topic is explained, is what is my understanding, Maharaj. Is that correct? Because
is the form still visible now, or was it only in the past that was visible?
Maharaj, as we understand this, definitely it's visible even today. Just like, for example, if we talk of the Saptarishi Mandala, we say it's in a particular formation. So if we observe in the sky, we can actually see this formation, and those who are very good in astronomy are able to connect these points and mark and tell us how it looks like. So it's a tangible physical model which is existing. So we can see the Saptarishi Mandala, but we cannot see the Swargaloka. So that's because within the universe, there are different levels of filters, which is not possible for us to see. And the Śiśumāra planets also, with the Śiśumāra planetary system also, with all the different stars which has been actually explained, and which is moving around the Dhruva Loka in that particular form, is actually a physical model which exists. So based on the meditation, one can actually locate and physically place those stars, and then he should be able to see this form. That's what actually it means.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly a very feasible presentation of the object of meditation. I think it's more easy to conceive of this kind of meditation than it was in the second canto. The meditation in the second canto is more difficult than the one which is presented here. Everything is very exact, you know, all the different parts of the body and the different planets, which planet is where. And very nice.
And it's very interesting actually to say that on the surface of the Śiśumāra formation, there are only luminaries. There are no stationary objects. They're all stars or those luminary planets which are there. So that's what is actually set into motion. And that's another interesting feature there, which makes it more tangible for the yogis, because they also want to become like shining stars. One of their objectives is like they want to remain eternally. So for them, they look for this type of arrangement.
No. So their goal is to become a star.
Yeah. There are, because they find that the stars are eternally shining in the sky, and they have such kind of goals for such people. This is explained.
Oh, okay. Well, I knew the people who died on the battlefield, the great Kshatriyas died in the battlefield. They'd be given a chariot, and they become like a star almost. That you can't distinguish them from stars when they go, unless you go into the higher planets. That from here, sometimes these great warriors in their chariots, they appear to be stars, but actually they're great warriors moving on chariots. So that's because the sky is so full of stars, so full of so many different things. Some of them are celestial stars, and others are just great warriors in their chariots, and they're moving around, going from one place to another. Sometimes attend a meeting with Indra, sometimes go to some other planet. But they have very effulgent chariots. Arjuna saw them When Arjuna went to heaven, he saw all of these people who had been killed on the battlefield, and how they were all in chariots driving around in their subtle bodies. Heavenly planets will be subtle. One of the examples about proving, trying to establish the principle that there's a subtle existence above everything. They give the example about gold. They say gold is jada, that is just dull matter here in this world. But in the spiritual world, gold is chintamani. It has full consciousness. Everything has consciousness in the spiritual world. So it's Krishna's abode, So the gold there is all like chintamani, and it has consciousness. But gold in the heavenly planets it's not fully spiritual and it's not fully material. It's in between the two. It is subtle. And they give the example, just like people worship demigods, sometimes these demigods, if they want, they can appear to their devotees. And when they appear, they will come dressed in all their ornaments. And often they're decorated with golden ornaments and so on. So they appear with the gold, and they disappear with the gold also. All their ornaments also go with them. It's not like the ornaments are different from them. The ornaments also have that subtle potency. Just like the bodies of the celestial beings, the higher planets, the demigods, they're subtle. And so all their ornaments are also of the same nature. It's inconceivable. But this is what we're looking at in the Bhagavatam. We're learning about the inconceivable, beyond the powers of our mind and senses. We're poor little Kali Yuga beings. We can hardly understand anything. What do we know? But in other ages, people could understand these things. They could go there, they could experience these things. We hear about them, and we just think, is it possible? Could it really be? But it's possible. Okay, so we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.